This is May 29th, 2025. We're at Bedford, Massachusetts at the Edith Morse Rogers Memorial Veterans Hospital. And this tape is part of the Morse Institute Library's continuing Veterans Oral History Project. My name is Jim Ramsey. Our camera person is Maureen Sullivan. And we're very privileged to have with us today Robert James Harrold. Welcome, Bob.
Thank you, Jim. It's nice to be here.
Well, let's get started. May I ask when you were born?
I was born on July 12th, 1936.
Where were you born?
I was born in Toronto, Canada. It's sort of an interesting story. Give you a moment of background. My mother was a Quebec Canadian, although she was born in, her parents were immigrants from Quebec, and she was born in Harrold. And my father was an old Marbleheader, born and brought up in Marblehead, of a long historical Marblehead background. My mother was visiting some friends in Toronto, and she was kind of indisposed for a short period of time. So I was born in Toronto and came back to Lynn, Massachusetts when I was 30 days old.
So you were a month old when you came to Lynn.
Yes.
And that's where your mother and father lived?
Yes, that's correct.
At the time. Okay. So did you grow up in Lynn?
Yes, I did. I went through the Lynn high schools and went into the Army from Lynn, came back to Lynn after the Army, and then I took employment in Manhattan. I moved to New York.
I see. Well, tell us a little bit about growing up in Lynn.
Well, it's a very, very interesting, very unique. The reason I say that is I was brought up on a street called Surfside Road. It was right on the ocean. We were probably 200 to 300 yards from the ocean. It was a tenement neighborhood, out of the way. That section of Lynn Beach was polluted at that time, not anymore. And it was sort of like an undiscovered, out-of-the-way location. So there are a lot of advantages within walking distance of the beach. So I became very proficient swimming. And of course, right there at that corner, there's a road that goes to Nahant. And we were right in between Lynn Harbor and the ocean. And from my window, I could look out, from my living room window on the second floor, I could look out and see the Boston skyline and the lights in Boston, and also see the lights on the Custom House Tower. So it was really quite unique. And we didn't know that we were underprivileged being on the ocean.
So you had, did you have brothers and sisters?
I had a brother who was 15 years older than me and a sister 20 years older.
Oh, wow. Quite a span there between.
Yes, it's always puzzled me because my mother and father really didn't get along very well.
I see. So interestingly, just thinking about time frame, you sort of grew up with two wars.
Yes, I remember World War II very well. My brother enlisted in the Air Force, and he was a radar operator, flying B-29s or B-25s out of England to bombing Germany. And my sister married And after they were married, he was drafted, even though they had a baby, and he was a bombardier instructor living in Texas.
Wow. So they were both kind of in the Army Air Forces?
Yes.
Yep. So they were gone. Your family must have been sort of hanging on news about World War II, or?
Well, yes. Regular communications with my brother. We writing him writing home every so often, and I remember which very few of us these days have any recall of the ration books. We had, even children had ration stamps, and food, certain items were on ration, gas and meat and butters and so forth. So it was prosperity as the war ended. There was prosperity. Lynn was a very, very dynamic city in those days because there were two General Electric plants, and one of them was an engine plant, and the other was a regular commodities plant. So Lynn was thriving with a population of about 100,000, although it declined greatly after the war as upward mobility, and it shrunk down to in the 70s, 70,000s.
So it was really thriving during the war.
Very much so. Yes.
Both of your brother and your brother-in-law came back from the war?
Yes, they did. Yes.
That's great. So, and then not too much later came the Korean War, and that also must have had people's attention in Lynn.
Yes.
By then you were, I'm just looking here at the math, 36.
I was in high school.
You were in high school.
When started? Korean War started, I believe, in June of 1950.
Yep.
And in 1950, I was in the 9th grade.
Right, going through high school. And so you had a bunch of friends in Lynn growing up?
Yes, I did. I was very fortunate. It was a tenement neighborhood, so it was loaded with kids. In fact, the nickname of our street, because highly populated with kids, and it was called Pregnant Alley.
Pregnant Alley.
Yes.
Well, sounds like a thriving neighborhood.
Well, yes, there were a lot of kids. I had a lot of playmates growing up.
Great.
Which made socialization came natural to me, integrated, even though I was a minority.
Minority?
Yes.
In what sense? Sorry.
Racially. But I'd rather not talk about that.
That's fine. That's fine. So, what is your marital status, Bob? And kind of family.
I'm married right now. My wife is indisposed. She has Parkinson's, and she's in a live-in facility being taken care of. And I have 4 wonderful children. I have 2 boys and 2 girls.
And what are their ages about?
Oh, that really has to stretch me.
That's okay.
I'm going to have to guess on this one. I'm going to say 65, 63 and a half, 61 and 60.
In their 60s, all of them.
Pardon me?
In their 60s, your children are in their 60s.
Yeah, 50s and 60s.
Right.
Yes,
Good.
real
That's
60s,
great.
yeah.
And
I had 5 under 5 years old at the high point.
5 grandchildren?
five of my children. I had five under 5 years old at one point
I see.
when they were growing up.
Well, that was a handful.
Yes, yes, yes.
And how many
That's
grandchildren?
a lot of fun. I have 8 grandchildren.
8. Wow. Are your children and grandchildren close by or spread out?
I have a grandson that's in North Attleboro. They're pretty well spread out. I've got some out one in Seattle, one in California. No, they're pretty spread out. I see
Right.
the one that's in, my youngest grandson is graduating high school this year, this week, and he is accepted into UNH.
Great.
A very, very marvelous young man.
Well, you've got a big family.
Yes, a lot of pleasure, a lot of joy.
And currently you're living here at the Bedford VA Hospital, as we call it, the Edith Norris Rogers Memorial Veterans Hospital. How long have you been here?
How long have I been here? Well, I needed some assistance. I was in Florida. Well, do we want to discuss New Hampshire, where I lived, and my circumstances of coming here?
Sure, a little bit. It would be fine
Oh.
if you're comfortable doing that.
Well, when I stopped working, I moved to Florida. The economy was better, and I didn't have a pension at that time. I just had money. So after about 10 years in Florida, I have a back situation, and I had some outpatient treatment at the VA while I was in Florida, and then I had a relapse, and my son came and took me back to his house, and I went to the VA for some outpatient treatment up in New York State, because he was living in Corning, and the VA decided that it would be easier and more expeditious to admit me for treatment, and rather than do it on an outpatient basis. So that's how I became a VA person.
So that eventually brought you here.
Yes. See, I had an accident at the VA while I was up in New York, and I became a cripple, as opposed to just going in for some minor back treatment. So all of my children are in this area, so I got transferred here so I could be closer to my children.
Great, great, great. You probably now, it's probably been about a year since you've been here, or close?
I came the last week in July. Close. This past July.
Got it. Okay, well that brings us up to date on your your personal story. Going back now to when you I guess finished high school, the Korean War has wound down, I guess.
Yes, that's correct.
So what was, but the draft was still going.
Yes, it was.
And sort of take it from there in terms of your decisions and what happened.
Well, after I worked all through high school, I had various jobs. And when I was 13, I worked in one of the men on the street had a fruit truck with a built-in route. So I went to work for him. He would take the orders for fruits and vegetables, and I would load up baskets and bring them into the houses. I did that at $4 a day. I was 13. I enjoyed it very much. He was a very nice man. So I worked for him again a second year at $4 a day. So then I graduated in the employment bracket, and I had high school jobs of working in an auto parts store and a veterinarian. I worked for a veterinarian. It was, I guess that's it. Then I was very thrifty, and I saved my money, and I wanted to go to college. I was a pretty good student, but my funds mysteriously disappeared. They were appropriated clandestinely by my parents. So when I graduated high school, I had no wherewithal. So it took a lot of thinking of what I was going to do. So I got a summertime job in an ice cream factory, actually right across the street from where I grew up. One of those takeout stands made their own ice cream, and they had a big market for it because it was a popular brand, and they sold to restaurants and ice cream men and so forth. So I worked in the freezer. They make the ice cream out on the floor, and it would come in a conveyor belt, and I would stack it in the freezer when it was in. And also people came for orders, and I would load up push carts full of whatever they wanted and bring it out. I had a very serious accident there, so I was hurt pretty badly at the end of August, and I was unemployed until December. So I searched.
Which year was this?
Hmm?
Which year?
1954.
54.
Yes. So I searched the good old Boston Globe want ads and found an office position with the insurance company per se. It was the state office. There's a very complicated situation. Right now, the name of the organization is ISO, Insurance Service Organization. It's a countrywide program, and they make rules, rates, and policy forms for the property insurance industry. So I got a clerk's job there, and I did very, very well, and I enjoyed the work, and I got along with the people. So I stayed there exactly 1 year, but there's that time with the draft hanging over everybody's head, there was no way anybody's going to get a young fellow's going to get a promotion or go any further with the draft. So I decided, well, it's time to go in the military, and we were ardent watchers of the war movies, John Wayne and all that stuff. So familiar with the excitement of the military. So that was a natural thing to do. So not seeing any progress in my career, and the disharmony. My home was very disorganized and very difficult. And my mother and father had separate lives, so I decided to leave. So I went to the Air Force. I thought about, well, being a pilot would be pretty cool. And at just that time, exactly then, when I went, they had changed the requirements that they required an associate's degree to go into flight training. So that was out. Growing up on the ocean, I was a superb swimmer, and I went to the Navy to see what I could do with the had underwater demolition and so forth. I was very much interested in that, and I went to the Navy recruiters, and they didn't have any much interest in going to another step. They told me that well, you know, you have to be able to swim 300 yards. They said, hardly anybody can do that. I said, sir, I can swim 3 miles. And I was a long distance swimmer, naturally. It was in walking distance of the beach, and we young guys, kids all spent most of our time on the sand playing ball and so forth. So they didn't have much interest in looking into it. I went back a second time to see if they had done their homework, and they kind of passed me off. So the next choice was the Army. So what I did is that I had already given my notice at work. Oh, yes. Well, I'd say I put my name in the head of the draft list. That's what I did.
Mm.
Yes, that's what I did. And the following month, I was drafted.
And this was in like December 55?
Yes, December of 55. Yes. And the next month I was drafted. I went to get my physical at the Boston Army base. I found out I wasn't going to get called in for another month for, well, giving my my resignation. They had enlistment, so I joined the Army at the Boston Army base with my physical. I've got a 2-year enlistment.
2-year commitment.
Yes.
So what happened then? Oh, by the way, I wanted to ask you, just your brother and brother-in-law served in World War II in the Air Forces.
Yes.
Did you ever talk with them at all about their service, or did they want to talk much about it? I'm just curious.
No, that's interesting. No, I didn't. My sister moved to, I was in that Texas. They said he was in New Mexico, where he taught bombardiering.
That's right, he was an instructor.
He ended up as a captain. Not much to talk about, just being an instructor, I suppose.
Right. It's mostly your brother,
My
flying in Europe.
Flying, no, he never talked about it.
And that's fine. I think that's the case a lot of times,
Yeah.
but I just wanted to ask. Okay, so back to you. You've been drafted. You're enlisted.
So I reported. I was inducted on December 17th, 1955.
What a memory. What a memory you have.
Oh, well, thank you, Jim. And it was a long bus ride to Fort Dix. That's where I took my basic training.
Fort Dix.
Yes. I enjoyed basic training very much. It was very physical, and I'm a physical person.
Very few people say they enjoy basic training.
Really? Wow.
Not many, but you enjoyed it because you were in good shape.
Yes, I was, and I truly was, and I ended up being high shooter in the rifle range.
High shooter.
And I won a weekend pass, which is unusual. Somebody getting weekend passes in basic training. Yes.
Yes.
But I really liked the shooting part. Yes. So that was that. Then they give you a battery of tests. You spent quite a bit of time, a good day or more, undergoing tests. So at the end of basic training, you sit down with somebody and they say, well, what do you want to do? What's available to you? And so forth. And I was offered OCS. I scored pretty high in all the exams.
OCS, Officer Candidate School.
Yes. But, and I didn't accept it. I regret very much that I never did, but I had a girlfriend, and I was kind of attached to my girlfriend, and what does an 18-year-old know?
That's right.
I call it the string disease. I had the string disease.
I won't ask you to elaborate.
No.
But it was a longer commitment, I think. OCS would have required more.
Yes, it was. Yes.
Right.
So, unbeknownst to me, I guess they looked over what I scored on the test and so forth. And after basic training, now this meeting we had was like 1 week left of basic training. And I asked to go to advanced infantry training because of the shooting and the physical aspect of it and so forth. And being All-American, I was very much interested in getting the bad guys. They said, no, we can't do that. I scored too high in the test. So when I got my orders, after basic training, I found out that I was sent to a Morse Code radio school at Fort Dix. So after basic training,
At Fort Dix?
Yes,
Okay.
dots and dashes, Morse Code.
Right.
It was a 12-week course. It was very, very interesting. And this is the interesting part about it is there were a lot of married guys that were in there. Probably they were drafted naturally. And because it's interesting and because it's demanding, they have assignments that come down well known and related to the students. That according to your class standing, you can have your pick of where you want to go, and they can come down. They said from anywhere, Germany, Europe, the States, all over. You can go all over the world. So I was in about the top third of the class. They're not very big classes, by the way. So I could have stayed in the States. I could have gone to Alaska, and there was a slot open for Korea, and I chose to go to Korea.
Why?
Oh, the excitement and the winding down the war, and I'm saying I'm going to be in the Army for 2 years. I might as well see some of the world and have a new adventure.
So what was going on in Korea at the time? I mean, the war was over, but only just over.
Yes, just over. Yes.
So was it still a pretty hot place to be?
Yes, it was, very much so. I remember when I flew over to Japan and then flew to Korea. But when my tour was up, we took the slow boat back to America. I guess they needed an extra radio operator, so I got flown over. But it was very much interesting that when we landed in Korea, we got on trucks, and they took us to the train station. And we got on the train, and we headed north. And sitting on the train, sandbagged on top of the train cars, were Korean soldiers with machine guns.
On top of the train
On
cars?
top of the train track, the train, yes. Yeah, and I said, oh boy, what am I in for? So we went north and went through rice paddy after rice paddy, and families in the rice paddies, taking baths, washing in the rice paddies. And we went through some very, very sparse countryside until I got to where I was going to be permanently located, a city or a town called Uijeonbu. And I understand that during World War II, the Japs had an airplane factory there.
Huh.
They made Zeros.
So
It's also a big battle of Uijeonbu. But I was attached to the 51st Signal Battalion, and that was a subsidy of I Corps, or some people say First Corps,
yes.
but it's really known as I Corps.
Does that mean it was farther north?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that's what okay.
Yes.
Farther north in South Korea.
Yes, that's correct. Yes, I would say 14 miles from the
DMZ?
the 38th parallel.
The demilitarized zone.
I'm sorry?
The demilitarized zone?
Yes. Yes, the demilitarized zone. Yes.
So
I have a picture of me sitting on top of the 38th parallel marker.
really,
Yes.
right there.
Couldn't do it today though.
So, and up there were obviously South Korean Army
Yes.
and U.S. Army guarding, I mean, both.
Oh yes, South Korean, U.S. Army, yes. We had a amount of, we call them Katusas, Korean Army attached to United States Army. It's easier to say a Katusa.
And on the other side were the North Koreans.
Yes, that's correct.
And it was not friendly.
Not at all.
Before we get into some of the details of your service, tell us a little bit about Morse Code. What is Morse Code?
Well, when you want to get a message, you would naturally pick up the telephone or a radio set and talk like we're talking now. But it's not always convenient to be able to talk and make out voices, and if there's any kind of action going on or gunshots, you're going to have your voice interrupted. So by sending out dots and dashes and making words out of them, you can communicate pretty good.
So dots and dashes. So I was a Boy Scout once, and I remember a little key, a little thing you push.
Yes, that's right. Yes.
So how does that work? Each letter has a different.
Oh no, that hasn't changed at all. No.
So give us an example of a letter or word.
All right. Well, this is pretty good. I enjoyed it very much, and I wanted to stay in practice after I came home, and I would read street signs to myself driving along, just to stay in practice. I'd read the street signs in Morse code to me.
Okay, what's stop?
Stop would be a S, would be did it. A T would be 2 dashes and 1 dot, dot at it. An O would be 3 dashes, and a P would be dot, dash, dash, dot. So we go did at it. That would be a P.
Just as fresh in your mind as if it were 50 years ago, 60 years ago.
Yes, it is amazing. It absolutely is amazing.
But that's how, so.
That's how good the training was, I might say.
You had, was it 12 weeks?
12 weeks.
Of
Well,
learning.
you sat down at a table and like sitting in your chair, sitting at a table with the key, like that, and that's all you did all day long is just listen and key up and listen and key and listen. So it's very, very, very intense. That's why they had the sweetening and up to pick your assignment if you did good, because it wasn't easy. You had to concentrate, but I enjoyed it very much, so I took to it quite well.
I mean, you had to have both the aptitude and the ability to concentrate, focus.
Yes, that's the purpose of all the tests they give you. I remember very vaguely things going on in the test, and then they ask you questions. They said, now this is a letter, and that's a dot and a dash or whatever that would be, and then way later on they would ask you that question again, and if you remembered it, I guess I did. So my aptitude showed that I was suitable for it.
So, and the way it works is just in simple terms, if you're sending a message, some officer, say, gives you something
Yes,
in writing,
Yes.
and then you tap it out.
yes, that's correct.
And likewise, you receive a message.
Yes. Now, what made it easier to know if you missed a letter or not is everything is sent in 5-letter groups, even though a word you want to use might be longer. You
What?
sent in 5-letter groups.
Huh.
And it's not sent in English. It's sent in code. The message that you get would be coded.
I understand.
So,
Not
so-
simple, not
so-
simple.
So the bad guys wouldn't understand.
So therefore, so what did you do with this message? You had a code book or a code,
You gave it to somebody else.
and they had
A decoding section.
they could unlock it,
Yeah.
so to speak.
Yes.
Huh.
Yes.
And the same with
You had a Jeep handy at the radio site to take messages.
so either to take them or and
To
then
where I was permanently located, okay. In preparation for another flare-up, we stayed mobile. The my radio operational site was a box on the back of a 2.5-ton truck. And attached to that was a gas power unit. And that provided the power and for the truck. And you towed the power unit behind you mobile. And we would once a month go out and have maneuvers, go out in the field. We'd go to some unknown site. We'd be giving a map with coordinates and a compass, and you just go up some mountain and find a spot that they told you to go to.
and then what happened then?
Then you just set up.
You send and receive.
You put the aerial on the truck and start broadcasting.
Okay, but this was a drill or
A practice drill, yes.
right.
Mobility was most important. You could stay at
I see. I got it.
you can stay in a little hut all day long and tap messages, but if you have to evacuate, be flexible. You have to be ready to do that. So that taught us mobility.
But when you were in the hut, the permanent or the permanent place.
The permanent place was the truck. You stayed in the truck 24 hours a day.
Okay.
The truck stayed parked. When you were permanent, your truck was parked, but you're in the truck.
I got it.
So
You're still in the
you
truck.
could start the truck up and go at a moment's notice.
Right. So
Say
when
all
you
of a sudden there was a flash invasion, well, you just wouldn't sit there. And we were mobile, ready for action
I got it.
at a moment's notice.
But when you weren't doing a drill
Yes.
and were stationary,
Yes.
what was the day like? What was a typical day sitting there at the key?
Well,
at the
we
keys?
worked 12-hour shifts. We had 12 on and 24 off. So a typical day was just pretty mundane because you didn't send a lot of messages.
But somebody
But
would,
once we went out in the field and we became mobile, the messages flew out the door.
and but also some must have been incoming. I mean, in other words,
Yes. Oh yes. Oh yes. Most of them incoming
so somebody would come up like in a Jeep and bring you
messages,
messages.
and then take the ones you got back.
And the message would be from units in the field, like companies or I mean, were you serving like an infantry battalion?
Oh, well, yes. Okay, that is a very good question. I was attached to I Corps headquarters, and we communicated with the divisions that were all over the northern part of South Korea.
Got it.
Yes. Yes, we were high echelon
So you were at the top
at the top.
of the organization structure,
Yes.
the division level.
That's correct.
And so other high level, maybe regimental or something, would be coming in, or other divisions
That's correct. Yes.
would send stuff.
Yes. So you know, something happened in Section B, and the company commander needs this, or that, or allegedly, and then he sends it to the major.
It goes up the chain, and then it goes over.
It goes over, comes back to me.
Right. And then you'd get well, and so I presume there were different levels of urgency or security or something with these messages? Or did you ever know that?
Never know.
You just got them, they were coded, so you accurately wrote the letters,
Yes,
and then somebody else decoded them.
that's correct. Yes. Yes.
It,
the mystique of what did you handle today?
right. So did you ever know or learn
What
sort
the
of
message?
what they were about?
Nobody ever did. No, not at all. No, you just did it. I might add in that somewhere along the line, at the tail end of my service here, I was assigned team chief of my radio net.
Sorry, what?
I was assigned team chief
Oh, team chief.
of my radio net.
By that point, you were what was your rank?
I went in under waivers. Everybody, when you go in, you're an E2. And that means enlisted man E2 is a lower rank, and then you're automatically promoted to E1 if you behaved yourself. So many months later, I'm going to say 4 or 6 months or something like that. And then from there you can go up to, now you're still a private, but you're not a PFC. You get promoted to a PFC. That means private first class. Then you have a stripe. And I was a specialist force, so I had an Eagle stripe.
Okay.
Patch.
So you were a Spec 4?
I was a Spec 4, which would be equivalent to a regular corporal.
Corporal. Right. Right.
I was put up, my duty called for a Spec 5, and I was put up for a Spec 5, but it was on a waiver, and there wasn't any allocation that particular month.
So, what was your daily life like apart from the 24 hours that you were off? I mean, was there recreational opportunities or movies or?
No.
Pretty.
No. I took up running. I used to run outside the camp, up the road a piece, but no, there really was not any recreation.
What was security like? I mean, were you under like high alert?
Sometimes we were, yes, very high alert. We had our own security. We pulled our own guard. Oh, yes, okay, this is a good point. We were a company-sized force, and the 51st Signal Battalion had, I should say, 4 companies. One was a pole lineman, one was headquarters company, and ours was the radio company.
Got it.
And they were segregated. And we were in a company compound out of the way, all by our onesie, of any other troops. And I guess the reason why they split them up is that if anything happens, the whole battalion wouldn't get wiped out all at once. They would just lose certain segments of it. And we went to Corps headquarters to operate our radios. The truck stayed at Corps headquarters. And we went in trucks from where we lived to the radio site at Corps headquarters.
So it was at Corps headquarters that you actually did your work?
We worked out of Corps headquarters
Got it.
on our mobile truck.
So was there ever...
That was my truck.
That was your truck?
Yes, I was responsible for it.
Was there active firing going on between the North and the South at this time, or was there just threats of it?
There was always little outbreaks and so forth. Yeah, it made everybody jittery. Yes, there were. Yes.
Was
but
that...
We were too far removed south.
Got it. This was happening up at the DMZ?
Yes, that's DMZ stuff.
And you were 14 miles south?
Correct. Yes. Wouldn't take them long to get there if they wanted to.
Right. You had to be prepared.
That's why we went mobile a lot, so we could be prepared to go where we were really needed the most.
I know it was hot for a long time, really, after the war.
It stayed hot.
It's still, in a way, hot.
Yes. Yeah, it stayed hot, yeah. Yes,
so...
but let's say you go to the village, all right, because we were right in the village. Our company was just on the outskirts of the village.
Oh.
Which I guess is quite a thriving place now. One of our doctors, it's Dr. Yi.
Oh, yes.
And she does acupuncture here, which she's done acupuncture for me. Her family lives in Uijeonbu. And she just came back from visiting her family.
Same town.
Yes, and that was quite a hot spot back then. But the career's changed an awful lot.
Oh, I'm sure it has.
From those days.
That's an amazing coincidence, though.
Yes,
Doctor.
Quite a coincidence.
So the total time you were in Korea was what?
16 months, actually to the day. I was really amazed, right to the day.
And so that was, did you know when you went over?
But the tour was 16 months automatic, yes. Some places that the Army sends you, it's a 12-month tour, or I understand Germany, it's a 2-year tour or more. But Korea then was 16. I don't know what it is today.
I think you talked to me at one point about R&R.
Oh, yes. Well, that's very interesting. It gives you something to look forward to. They don't have it anymore like they had it before. Well, I'll explain that in a second. If you were good and your record was good and you did what you're supposed to do and no penalties, let's say, company punishments, you got 5 days free time to go to Japan, and they flew you over and flew you back, so you could have 5 days off.
So you went to Japan?
I got to maximum they are allowed of 2 R&Rs. Yes, I did. Yes.
Did you enjoy your time in Japan?
Well, yes, it was very interesting. It was very, very interesting. I enjoyed it very much. I made 2 mistakes though on my R&R, which is kind of too bad, but I did enjoy them. The first time I was friendly with have you ever heard the term Nissi?
Mm-hmm.
Well, for our audience, a Nissi is a Japanese American, and this guy I was quite friendly with. He was an American soldier of Japanese heritage, and he had a grandmother that lived in Japan, and he wanted me to go with him to visit his grandmother, and I thought that would be pretty neat, little local color and so forth. So he did what all good Japanese men do. He had to visit Mount Fuji, the sacred Japanese mountain. So we got on out of the R&R Camp Drake in Tokyo, and we took a train to Mount Fuji, and he climbed Mount Fuji, but in Mount Fuji was in the town of Fuji-Yoshida, was on a lake, and it was very, very beautiful. So I rented a motor scooter, and I toured the whole area while he climbed Mount Fuji. And then the next day we took another train down to his grandmother's house. But she wasn't very hospitable. And if I can remember, her brother and other relatives were killed in World War II. So even though she had a Japanese grandson who was an American soldier, she didn't cotton up to Americans. So we no sooner he get there, and he's apologized profusely to me, and he said I couldn't stay.
Wow.
So we went back to the train station. He put me on the train, and I went back to Tokyo. And I went to an R&R hotel. There's hotels scattered around for GIs. Very, very reasonable, very nice hotels.
Well, this was only 10 years or so after the end of World War II, so World War II must have been pretty fresh still in the minds of the Japanese people.
Yes, it was, very much so. It certainly was, yes. I remember when we flew over from Japan to Korea, and we landed at Kimpo Air Base outside of Seoul, and looking and circling from the air, and then we flew over in very small airplanes, sort of about the size of what it would be paratrooper airplanes, that small size.
Yes.
Because there weren't many going back and forth at any one time. Not like you're moving a whole large group. And the communications tower, was all shot up and all ripped apart, and still damage left over from the Korean War. That's when I said, what am I doing here?
Yes. Whoops. Well, that's so. At the end of your 16 months, you came home.
Oh, yes. This is really amazing. We got on the ship. We took off, and we ended up from Korea to Yokohama. The ship docked at Yokohama for 24 hours. I got a pass. We got off the ship, and I walked around Yokohama, which was interesting. And then we came back and landed in America, and I don't remember for the life of me, and I don't even remember at the time where we landed. But we were put on trucks and taken to a mess hall. The ship food was horrible. You'd have white beans for breakfast. Of course, most everybody was seasick. I was very fortunate. I was there were tiers of bunks, five in a row, and the guys in the top bunk were seasick, and the guy in the bottom bunk got splattered off the floor from the seasickness. But I was fortunate I didn't get seasick. But every winding through the corridors of the ship, the passageways, every few feet there was a trash can for seasickness. And golly, you would be seasick with the food that they gave you. Yes.
That sounds like an exciting way to end your enlistment. Not.
I didn't get that.
I just said it sounds like an exciting way to end your enlistment.
Oh, yes. Well, the nice way is we got taken into a GI mess hall when we landed, and I never saw one before. They had milk. They had milk in the milk containers.
Not dry milk.
The milk machine.
Yep.
Yeah, real milk. Oh, it took me a few months. I was an avid milk drinker in those days when I was younger, and it took me a few weeks to get used to tin can sterilized milk. Pretty vile.
Yes, yes.
So it was really delightful to get real milk. And then after the mess hall, we got put on a plane and got flown back to McGuire Air Force Base at Fort Dix. And that's night time. Go to bed. The next day you get up and you're discharged. Got all your papers in your hand.
So you got discharged from Fort Dix?
Yeah. 24 hours after I got there. Amazing.
Magic.
Amazing.
And
speaking about that, to make it opposite, when on the way to Korea, we went to Fort Lewis, Washington State. Fort Lewis in Washington State. That's the disembarkment place to leave to go to Korea. And every morning that I was there, probably for about 5 days, when we have the morning formation meeting, you look out and see Mount Rainier in the distance.
lovely.
Yes, it was beautiful.
So you got back. You eventually got back to Lynn, I guess.
Yeah, my mother and father. With my discharge, I took a bus to Port Authority and another bus from Port Authority to some airport. I don't know which one. It's too long ago. And I called my folks, and they met me at Logan.
And you were home.
And I was home. Yes.
So wanted to ask you, when you served, did you receive any decorations for your service?
This is very interesting. And yes, I did. But I didn't know it at the time. I wish I did, because they would have served me very well. But my son bumped into a military historian and got talking to him and saw some of his work, and he signed him up. He got a hold of my background and my papers and so forth, and he made a collage of all the awards that I received.
Right, and you have that in your room.
I have that hanging in the room.
Good.
Yes.
We'll afterwards we'll go down and take a photograph of that.
Okay.
Maureen, I think, would like that.
Yes, quite a bit.
Yes, I remember
quite a
it.
bit.
Very, very impressive.
6 of them.
Yes,
I
that's
said, I did that.
right.
I remember I said about, somebody said something about Korea way back, and I said, oh yeah, I said, it's really great. I said, I got free bullets. And they said, you mean the Army makes you pay for bullets?
All the bullets you can use.
That's right.
Uh,
Yeah, we did do some good shooting. But see, being in a compact space, we weren't issued the regular service weapon, the M1 we had.
okay, so when you came home, what were your thoughts about having served?
I had no thoughts. It was nice to come home and see everybody and get back into a routine and make a new life for myself.
Did any of your friends or acquaintances serve? They must have, because of the draft and all that. Did you have buddies who came back too and whatever, or not too much of that?
No, some of the neighborhood kids were a little older than me, and I remember that they went in after high school, and they went in for a longer enlistment period, so they all got out at the same time.
So have you, over this long time since you served, have you been in touch at all with any of your former guys in
From being in the military? I was in touch with somebody I was in basic training with. That we got along pretty well, and we went to radio school together. And he was a very important person in my life, because I had a fungus infection in my hand from a job I had when I was in high school, and I was working for a building cleaner, and I had my hand, didn't have rubber gloves in, and I had a caustic type of burn infection. So in basic training, you had guard duty and KP, and I wasn't very happy with KP if I got the kitchen job with my hands in the soapy water.
Yes, yes.
So in radio school, I decided that if I have to tell them I'm a squad. I was a squad leader in basic training, and maybe I could be a squad leader in radio school as opposed to being just a regular guy. Then I would have guard duty, but I wouldn't get KP. But that wouldn't work out because there were a lot of squad leaders. So I made myself an assistant platoon leader. So I was able to become squad leader and bluffed my way through, and he was there and he backed me up.
And you kept some kind of contact with him?
Yes, I did. While I was in Korea, I kept in contact with him, and I got together with him once. He lived in New Jersey. One time when I came back from Korea, my wife was from New Jersey, so I was down visiting her parents and got together with him. For one time only.
So you remember Morse code perfectly?
Pretty good.
Do you remember your service number?
Yes.
I'm just curious. What was it? What is it?
11216986. That's one thing you never forget.
I know.
It's amazing.
And
Absolutely amazing.
I thank you for sharing that with us.
And here it is now.
70 years.
70 years later, and I remember it. And I haven't practiced it either.
Oh, I know you haven't. Nor have you practiced Morse code.
No. Well, yeah, every so often I cheat.
Do you tap it out?
No, in my mind.
In your mind, of course.
Good for my mental agility.
It is. So we're kind of winding down now,
Yes.
But a couple of final questions. So how important was it that you chose to serve in the military and the Army? Did that wind up being an important decision for you?
Yes, it was a wonderful decision. It's probably one of the best decisions I ever made. I liked the Army very much. I liked everything about it. I liked the physical part of it and the militaristic and the shooting.
The shooting.
Well, I said to myself one time, I wonder why I'm such a good shooter. Maybe it was when I was 12 years old, my father bought me a BB gun. And we were across the street growing up, as I told you, in a tenement neighborhood in the harbor. And he had coal wharfs. A lot of cargo ships, and we were rat infested. So the rats, and the construction of the tenements was balloon construction, and what that is no fire stops. It's open from the cellar to to the roof. There's no attics per se. They're flat roofed, so with no fire stops, there wouldn't. It's illegal. This construction is illegal today, but the rats ran unimpeded all through the house, and a very, very, very strange feeling. My first night that I've ever been away in the Army in basic training, going to sleep without hearing rats.
Wow.
Gnawing and running and scampering.
So you got good experience shooting rats with a BB gun?
Yeah, that's why I won a weekend pass. Good shooter.
So, thinking back, was there one particular memorable experience or character or something really humorous, something that really kind of stands out?
Yes.
That you'd like to share with us? Please do.
Well, I told you about our maneuvers, and we went periodically once a month out into the field, and never knowing where we're going. Well, we got into this particular site well after dark, and we set ourselves up, and we slept in pup tents, and each of us had our half of a tent, so you mated with somebody else, and you put the two halves together and made a tent big enough to sleep in. Well, apparently we were near a village. I don't know. It wasn't any particular reason why they would send us here, but I took the midnight shift, being team chief, and make sure everything was set up and in working order, while I passed it on. And the guy that I was in the tent with was in the tent with a Korean woman. Somehow or other, he smuggled her into my half of the tent. And they're in a sleeping bag. And now, when we came to this particular site, there was nobody around. We were like the first ones here. And everybody went conked out, and midnight comes, and it's pretty deserted, and it filled up with a lot of people. And complimentary and infantry, complimentary people to us, and regular full protection to be ready in case something bad was going to happen. And he was stuck in a tent with this female. So we have to get him out, but we can't get him out because it's too built up. So we drag him out of the tent, and I got a few other guys, and we hoisted him up on our shoulders, and we carried him in the sleeping bag, both of them. And a lieutenant comes by, and he says, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, he overslept and missed his duty call this morning." I said, "I'm going to make sure that he's fully awake." I said, "I'm going to dump him in the river around the bend." And he said, made a comment, and I said, "Would you like to join us?" And he said, "No." So when we got down around the bend, and we put him down, unzipped the sleeping bag, and his lady friend took off, and he owed me one.
That is a great story.
That's pretty good.
It's pretty good. I'm sure you have more, but before we wrap up, is there any sort of final thing you'd like to say or share?
No, you've cut an awful lot, Jim. You've covered quite a bit. No.
That's great. Well, this has been a great interview, Bob. I'd just like to say, Robert James Harrold, thank you very much. for
Thank you
speaking with us today.
for having me.
Appreciate it. It's great.